Meeple Talk! Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Adam.
And welcome to Meeple Talks. This time we're going to be talking about Imperial settlers. Take it away!
All right. So, this game comes in a board game box. Good call! However, it's basically a card game. It's an elaborate card game, but it is a card game. So there's some card management and resource management in this game. Why don't we set this aside?
All right.
Okay. And basically this game has 4 different civilizations. There's Egyptian, Barbarian, Japanese, and the Romans. So they wouldn't have all really existed or fought in the same time period, but it's kind of like, who would have won?
So-and-so versus so-and-so.
Yeah, so as a basic overview, you have a hand of cards, and on each round, there's a total of 5 rounds. You will get some cards, and then you need to play out as many buildings as you can. The cards basically represent buildings. There's other things you can do with the cards, but they're basically buildings. And at the end, you'll score victory points depending on how many buildings you've put out and how much they might be worth. And there's some other ways you can score some victory points with special features on the different cards. But that's basically how it works.
Yeah, so a general overview of how the turns go. So we've got, as we mentioned, there's 5 overall grand rounds, and each one of them has phases within them. So the first phase is what we call the lookout phase. So I'm just going to put this down for a second here. So not only with your own faction, you have your set of faction cards, which will have certain type of building types, but there's also one master deck of common cards. And so when you have the lookout phase, you'll draw one from your own faction deck, but then also a variety of cards will be played or just displayed in front of everyone, and we're going to take turns choosing which ones of the set we like. There's going to be 2 rounds of that per overall phase. And so from there, you're going to create your hand, and this is where you're going to decide based on the next phase, which is the production phase. This is where you're going to be accumulating the goods that your particular civilization is going to collect. Some of them might have extra abilities to create what we call these worker tokens, whether it's extra money or certain types of resources. Each different civilization will be specialized in a certain type of resource or good. So when you collect those goods, now you're going to decide with the cards in the hands that you have, or cards that you have in your hand, which ones you're then going to be able to build with these resources and layout. After that, once those are done, you've got the overall, part of the action phase as well. So the action phase is when the actual building that you're going to be doing. Also, as the cards give you certain other types of activities that you can do, whether it's spending certain resources to get victory points, whether it's being able to raise what we call, like, to destroy either your own cards in your hand to get extra resources, or destroy other common cards in your opponent's landscape to get those certain resources just to collect more goods. And so you're just going to go around repeating these actions. And actually, this is almost like an indefinite phase until you've kind of run out of things that you can do and you pass. So once everyone passes, that overall round is done for the action phase. And then finally, the last phase is just the cleanup. So any goods that you have not used up, they just go back to the master pile. You cannot carry them over, except one that your civilization allows you to carry over to the next round. So everyone has a unique one that they can carry over. So you've got to decide how you want to play those out. So because the rounds are short, you've got to try to maximize the amount of stuff you can do, because overall, in the end, the victory points, as Adam said earlier, is going to be based on the amount of plots you've built and other points that you've built along the way by conducting certain actions. So that's generally the overall gameplay of it. I don't know. What do you think so far? Do you want to start with some thoughts here?
Sure. Yeah. So, this game, it reminds me in some ways of Agricola in the sense that everyone has their, own goals, and you're kind of building up and trying to make maximize your particular civilization. There's not a lot of player interaction except for the raise tokens, which has to do with, there's a sword token that's called the raise token. And by raise, they don't mean make higher. They mean destroy or wipe out. Yes. So the race tokens, you can use them in two ways. One, to use the resources of a card that's in your hand. But the other, more important way, which involves some kind of player interaction, is with two race tokens, you can destroy someone else's common building and get the resources that are indicated on the card. So that's the way in which it has some player interaction. And that's kind of a big deal because they not only lose their card and they lose a victory point, because the common card is worth 1 victory point, but they also lose whatever feature that card had. So you may strategically wipe out a card where someone is gaining victory points from it or gaining valuable resources or something like that. But as far as... but other than that, like I say, it reminds me in some ways of... other European Euro-style games, I should say, where you're basically doing your own thing, and there's not a lot of other player interaction, and at the end you find out who wins. But this game is kind of cool in that you're marking off your points as you go, and so you can clearly see how many points every player has, and also you can count up the number of buildings that they have and say, oh, this player is ahead, or that player is ahead. Sort of like Settlers of Catan, you can just look at the board and always know where the other players are, and I really appreciate that. I like games where the scoring is not hidden during the game. I like how it's always just laid out, and you can see where everyone is, because then you can be more strategic. You can say, oh, so and so looks like they might be winning, or they're way ahead. Let's see what we can do to change that, right? But I think I really like this game in the sense that it allows you to. There's a lot of different strategies involved. Like you can, get more resources from cards in your hand, or you can destroy someone else's building and gain resources. And during the action phase, especially, you're always thinking, how can I manage the resources that I have? Because you get this fixed number of resources during production. You get, some food and some wood and some stone, and then you're wondering how I can keep, making more resources, right? Using a feature to make more resources, and those resources can be used to build something else, and those resources can be used to build something else, and your turn can go on almost forever. And that's the goal, is to keep your turn going as long as possible, to do as much as possible in each round.
And I would have to agree with that, because we didn't mention it earlier, but we generally tend to categorize this one as a medium strategy game. But the reason why I like the way this one plays out is that, yes, you can absolutely get up and look at it and read everybody's cards and see what they have and try to decide, is it worth it for me to raise their plots if you want, or raise your own. And the reason why I like it strategy-wise is that not only can you decide, okay, what do I have available to me and my cards, but the order in which you take your actions is going to be very important too, because sometimes some of the goods can be converted for others in certain circumstances. So, for example, 2 workers can equal any of the other resources that you have there. Coins can, at points, represent other goods when trying to purchase other cards or to be able to build them. And because of this limited convertibility, sometimes they're one way, you can't go back the other. So you really have to decide, okay, if I have this much, can I convert to this? Will it convert to that and whatnot? And so the order in which you do them plays a huge role. And sometimes you can get a little hung up by the fact that the card that you just wanted to play to get that perfect combination, that you have someone else decide to raise it, and then you're kind of stuck. But that's kind of part of the charm of it. It's like, how do I then start over? You will find that, sometimes you can. Maybe you won't be able to take as many moves as you thought you could. There's only 5 rounds, so really time is of the essence. There's only so many opportunities you can get to collect your resources in the various forms. So I think it's a nicely designed strategy game. The artwork too. It's very pleasant. It's weird because it's a little bit of a mix and match. When you look at the Master Civilization cards, you'll have very nice looking artwork, I guess more adultish style or advanced looking artwork. And then the rest of the cards, they're all miniatures. Like they're almost like little mini characters of the civilizations themselves. So they're kind of kooky, they're kind of pleasant, almost like you're in a little video game when you look at them. So, But the funny thing is that it doesn't give like a thrown off feel to the works. It's actually quite pleasant to look at. But I just really like the planning in this game. You're not really affecting too many people in such a large degree, but you're right. As Adam said, it's a Euro game where it's very solo, but it's neat.
So I just want to mention, however, 2 negatives that I see in the game. The first one is that, it took a while to learn all of the rules and then play the first game. But I found that even after the third game, we spent a lot of time looking up rules. There's just a lot of rules in this game that are not easy to keep in your head. It's not an intuitive game. I definitely say that. So if you don't like rules-heavy games, then this might not be a great game for you. So I guess that's all I'll say about that. And then the other thing is, sometimes because there's so many options that you may have, to maximize the resources that you have, using the cards in your hand, looking at the different actions that your cards give you, sometimes people can spend a lot of time figuring out what they're going to do with their turn. If you're on a limited time, you only have a certain amount of time to play the game, and you're worried you might run over, this might not be a good game to play as well. It can be, very thinky, is what I'm trying to say.
So I think I would have to agree with you in that point, is that, sometimes the decision-making component can take a while. So it is a game that you should ideally set aside as either if you have an afternoon or evening where nothing else is really going on, that you can just casually play. It's a very enjoyable pastime form of game.
No time limit. It's a perfect game if you have no time limit.
It works for that. It's not something that you're trying to get done for before you start a movie or have another game on the go after that. But I guess I would disagree on the rules part, though. I think the overall concept of the game is not that difficult to get. It's more just reading and understanding the cards. Sometimes some of the cards are worded just a little off, that you're like, okay, what exactly did that mean? Can I do this or can I do it that way? And I think that's where the rules reading really was just on clarification. But overall gameplay rules, I think those are they're fine. So I would say overall, in my opinion, I like it, so I would definitely recommend giving this one a try. How about you? I
definitely would recommend it, and I would play it anytime. I wouldn't say it's the highest game on my list, but it's definitely a very cool game, and it's definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I don't think it's
I definitely give it, I give it a somewhat qualified, strong recommendation.
The thing is, it's not the game that you'll probably play back to back to back over and over. You probably should give it some space in between. But other than that, it is a game that does have replayability. So I would say absolutely give it a try. So once again, showing the box one more time. This was Imperial Settlers here.
Thanks for watching. Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.